unfortunately, at the hands of the Sydney Drop Bears. So Legacy coming off a win, Blank coming in off a loss, and I'm surprised anyone in your games actually knows who you are, to be perfectly honest. So that's the big surprise of the week.
Someone almost every single game says, "Is that Elfishguy?" I'm like, "Yep."
They're like, "Gee whiz, I had you in my ranked game the other week and you were bad."
And we lost.
I said, marked you as a void player. Why are you here? Legacy in the white, Blank in the green. Yes, I understand that. Anyway, looking for the first pick, Roro. I almost wanted to come in saying, my concern is that Roro's going to get a bit of free reign on the far right. Look at that, straight away.
75%, Ben. He's up to 75%.
Yeah.
Minnie, you're just going to have to reset.
Yeah, please, get out.
Jeez, Minnie. Well, that'll happen, I guess, when you're not ready for the far. And it definitely did not seem like Legacy was ready for the far. They didn't play around it at all. Straight away, the changeover, though, onto McCree for Addy and onto the Winston for Cinderella. So, a bit of a change up here for Legacy. They're going to run the McCree goats.
Oh,
and there you go.
Big hits.
Should be
coming through. Did all 100 of the damage. Kura will come through with the res. A little bit frustrating for Addy, but hey, can follow up with another one.
At least that gives Legacy some pause for thought here. They need to be a little bit more worried now. Rocket Barrage is available though, and it's going to be a big one.
Right in over the top, looking to find the picks, and it's Addy who's found out first. Thunder Kitty goes down as well. Special Kid trades one back, as you can see, but it will not make a difference. Blank, who've already found themselves almost 40% of the point, will find themselves another victory in that particular fight.
It's going to take quite a bit of time for Legacy to get their way back into this, because they had to make those swaps after the first fight. Admittedly, they didn't charge much in the first fight because they kind of got wrecked, but it did sort of set them back quite significantly. You can see them starting to get close to ultimates right now, but Blank have got such an advantage that I wonder if this is actually salvageable for Legacy at this point. They will need to have a very good, solid economic fight very soon.
As the Winston goes in and actually does find Special Kid over the top. The EMP has come through as well from Tails. And one by one, Legacy starting to go down. They're not using really all that much or anything at all. They're just trying to save, as one would expect to see. But they're running out of time here also, Jordan.
It's their last fight now, this one. But at least they're coming up on ultimates. We've got sound barrier there. You know, Rally will keep them alive at least to get close enough to the point before they really get absolutely torn apart by Roro's rockets. And Addy with the McCree might be able to provide some zoning potential. So there's a chance for Legacy here.
Oh, self-destruct. Oh, no! Actually, I think Noz stole that kill. The Boot was going to see the McCree off the edge. Sound barrier comes through from Legacy. Their last fight here. But I don't think it's going to be enough, to be perfectly honest. Blank will find themselves the first round and do so.
I'm not even sure where that boop came from. It must have been...
Was it off the...
Was it Noz with the self-destruct that actually booped him?
No, he was already going.
Was Nellery jumping in? Maybe it was Nellery jumping in that landed next to him. Oh, you know what it is? Would have been Roro.
Yes.
I'm thinking, like, where's the boop coming from? I'm looking for Lucia. I'm looking for Primal Raging Winston, and then obviously it's from Concussive.
If you'd let me speak, Jordan, I would have told you that it was.
Well, nobody likes listening to you, Ben, so I'm just trying to do everybody a favor.
Wow. This is so BM.
Blank with one on the board, though, and Legacy didn't even look close.
Hashtag didn't Sandman. Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, a little bit disappointing. As I think, to be fair, most people probably expect Blank to come into this one all guns blazing, and Legacy going to be the team that has to do a bit of work to bring that ground back. Definitely. But 100-0 is not how you want to start.
All right, Roro's going to go on to the May as well, so it seems like everyone's been watching a little bit of EU Contenders today. And they've been able to adapt some strategies. Big green lime wall.
Yeah.
Splitting up Legacy a little bit. Cinderella almost goes down, but nicely done from Legacy to negate that. Now they swing back in their favor.
Very low. The bubble comes through just in the nick of time there as well. And it's going to be Kura who goes down first. That's a nice little pick from Legacy. They'll follow it up with another. Nellery going to get found out by Cinderella. And that should be enough to find them the point. Noz going to get staggered as well. So that's a good little start coming out from Legacy. That's precisely how they needed to strike back after losing the first round.
Yeah, definitely. Having the D.Va on your side of the field does give you a little bit more damage mitigation than what the May is going to offer. So if you can use that to good effect, which Mini certainly does, can lead to the victory. A little bit of a skill matchup, I think, when it comes to the Snow Goats versus the regular Goats.
Looking to catch them out. Addy now has the Graviton Surge, throws it out straight away as well. Follows through, lots of damage. You can see half of that's coming from Addy as well, who cleans up 3 We're sitting at 100% energy.
That's perfect.
Yep.
Great stuff from Legacy. Great grab out from Addy as well. There was not a defensive ultimate there for Blank Esports, so Legacy knows that they don't need to throw anything else in there. Very economic fight for them, and this is the complete opposite, the complete turnaround from what we saw from Blank.
Need to follow it up. Coalescence comes through as well. That's going to catch a lot of Blank out. Tails very low. Staying alive for now. You can see they actually find 2. So I was about to say, what can be done here by Legacy? The answer is actually not that much.
They just need to back away and ensure that they go down on the point, try to contest for as long as possible. If they can get this up to 75%, you'd be pretty happy with that as Legacy. Does look like it's going to go pretty quickly over, though. Around 60, still not too bad there for Legacy. Very convincing win, though, for Blank Esports in that fight. Just because they get caught off by the wall, Legacy really fall apart. A lot thrown in there as well. Self-destruct, shatter, nano boost. Not enough to keep Legacy alive.
Waiting. Roro. Oh, throws it up.
Baited.
Yeah, baited.
Nicely done from Addy. Very nicely done.
Graviton Surge going to come out here as well. Captures them all out right up against the wall coming from Blank.
Not the grab, but the Blizzard did get eaten.
Well, that's unfortunate indeed. The wall goes up again. It's actually proving quite difficult for Legacy to deal with this.
Cinderella's very isolated right now. He's going to be bullied out by Blank. Actually has to back away. It also means that he's not with his team, so without a Reinhardt shield, Legacy fall very easily.
They do indeed, and slowly getting picked off there as well.
Yeah, it's
whilst
really
they're not
solid.
on the point is not how you want it to go.
No, definitely not. Starting to catch up now, Blank, and Legacy need a big grab here to bring them back into it. There's not really anything to worry about for Addy, so you can sort of throw it out willy-nilly. There's no Diva. Should be able to get a pretty big one off here, but sound barrier available for Kura, so enough to play with to defend against it at least.
Going to push back through behind the shield of Cinderella. Sleep Easy is low. Graviton Surge will come out for Lexi. Looking to follow up with a ton of damage. Cinderella charges through, but doesn't have the impact that they wanted. Kura has used that sound barrier, and Blank now is the team finding the pick. Mini's gone down. No Diva. No fun at all. Graviton Surge now comes out from Blank, and this might be enough to make life very, very tough. There's the Blizzard. Will come out from Blank. Roro going to be successful there. Just one more ultimate was enough to get Blank across the line, and this looking ever closer to a 2-0 on Lijiang.
Yeah, just perfectly counterplayed really from Blank there. As soon as the grab comes down, sound barrier comes down to keep them alive. Once the grab dies, then Blizzard comes out from Roro. Puts too much pressure on Legacy, and they're able to essentially win that fight with ease.
They're going to have to stagger themselves onto the point one by one. Already Mini looking low, does get D-mech'd before the fight even starts. A sound barrier comes for Legacy.
Too late.
This may be enough to try and do something. Jordan says too late, and he is correct. You'll see one by one they will get found out. And it's going to be 2-0 for Blank on Lijiang. And a pretty convincing one, Legacy. The start of this particular round looked okay, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, it certainly was not enough. It was that one fight that really ruined them, where they kind of got caught off by the wall of Roro. They had to throw so many ultimates in, and then they didn't even win the fight from that point. They didn't even really stall out for too long. They didn't give themselves that much time to sort of work their way back into things with the ultimates. And from that point on, Blank had the ultimate advantage, and they're easily able to clean up the 2-0 there on Lijiang Tower.
Literally didn't matter how long Legacy staggered there. They were not going to be able to get back onto that point and really do anything better. It's just yeah. You'll try. You may as well try it, but it's not going to happen.
Definitely solid stuff. I mean, we saw one good grab out from Addy. I mean, there was an eat from Mini, but aside from that, nothing particularly exciting for Legacy. I think Cinderella got isolated quite a few times. Once from his own fault by just charging a little bit too far in. A couple of times by the wall from Roro. So definitely working out this time for
How was this?
Blank.
Great start.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just perfect. Like, you couldn't ask for a better start as a Pharah to be able to get 2 kills and then to charge up your Rocket Barrage in one fight, really.
Yeah. Nutmark was pretty impressive. There's the boot.
There it is, yeah.
So, a lot of good plays coming out, and Roro quite devastating here on the May. Though, again, it's one of those things, Jordan, where if you're playing probably for the better team in the scenario, it can be, you get a little bit more room to work with. You can make those plays a little bit easier when you get a successful wall. Your team maybe is a little bit quicker to jump onto the players who are split from the rest of their team. So it works. You know, it's not necessarily Rory. Probably, to be fair, is playing a little bit better than what we saw in the last game. But it certainly helps when your team's helping you get that advantage.
Yeah, it definitely helps. I mean, I've always said it is better to, or it is easier to shine in a team of champions where everything that you are able to do to enable your team is capitalized upon, you know, in half a second instead of 1 second. Those little sort of tiny little differences do make a big difference actually in the end, especially when it comes to a game that's as quick as Overwatch. You know, if you're able to catch that Reinhardt out of position for even half a second, and then a shield bash comes through, and then a sleep dart comes through, or then a pin comes through, etc., you're able to shut him down. But if you don't get that one small opening, if you don't get the shield bash in time, or whatever it is, then the Reinhardt can get back to safety, gets healed up straight away, and then, you know, you're kind of back to square one. So it is really a game of milliseconds at times, especially in a GOATS composition, because there are so many nuances, so many little things. You know, if a Zarya bubble doesn't come down in time onto the Reinhardt or onto one of the supports or something like that, it can mean the difference between a win and a loss in that fight, and then potentially the ripple effect then becomes a win and a loss in that entire round. So, you know, even one missed bubble or one missed shatter or etc. can make such a difference across the whole context of the round. And that's one thing that I think people do tend to miss a little bit when it comes to GOATS. Everyone just sort of thinks, oh, everyone just runs at each other, everyone just dies, everyone survives for such a long time. But there's so many little nuances that you kind of have to keep an eye on that really do make a big difference.
Does indeed. I was about to say before the graphic came up that, I wonder if we're going to see Hollywood here from Legacy. That's all they played so far this season. And they're going to continue in that stead. They're 50-50 on Hollywood at the moment. But this is going to give them a shot? Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see how it does go. I can't really think of a time where I felt Legacy has been particularly super strong on Hollywood. They did have a reasonable defense against Atletico, but to me,
it went all the way through to the final phase, right? Just before the last point.
Yeah, but their attack has always been the problem, I think, Legacy, not so much the defense. So if we see them start out here on attack, which you would probably expect them to, given Blank would have a choice.
It's a good time for water here as we head into the first week of summer in Australia.
Yep.
I can see why the May's being played. It's going to be some hot days ahead, Yeah,
put the aircon on.
Yeah, perfect. What more can you want? Why would you even want to stop the blizzard? That's what we need.
Yeah. It's actually going to be Legacy to start off on defense, so Blank have chosen attack. I'll hope to see Legacy pose a good defense here. If not necessarily first point, you know, at least something toward Phase B, in the middle of Phase B, somewhere like that. That'll be defendable, or rather attackable, I think, for Legacy. But once we get into the third phase of the map, I think that's where Legacy will start to let themselves down a little bit. Dive comp out for Blank Esports, although a change up.
We're waiting.
Is going to be occurring.
Just wanted to see maybe what was there. Okay, bit of a change. Roro onto the Farah. I'm ready.
Just going to try and put all the damage down.
Addy is here on the Soldier. Just have to see whether it's more or less effective than using the McCree in this scenario.
Well, he needs to be able to put a lot of pressure onto Roro, otherwise there's going to be just a hail of rockets coming down upon Legacy.
Yeah, a hail of rockets onto that Oricious shield as well.
It's a good pick.
Straight away, it's one down, finds him, brings him back to 6v6 for now.
Roro's
the upstairs was difficult, and Addy does, in the end, find Roro.
Addy was pretty impressive last week on the Soldier. It was nice to see him having the success again this week.
Interesting to see Mercy on both sides here, Jordan. So it's what we used to see back in the day.
Yeah. I think when Ash comes back into Contenders, we may be seeing a little bit more Mercy as a result of that as well. But that's a discussion for later on down the track. For now, Legacy have built up the visor.
It's a good start. It's not a bad start at all,
Well,
really.
Definitely put a lot more pressure onto Roro and Kura. They can't act with impunity. Addy getting some high ground here. He'll be difficult to dislodge, but Roro with a concussive blast should be able to knock him off.
Drops downstairs. Anyway, going to go for the high ground. The second time around is Nellery as Addy drops all the way back and pops the visor.
That's
Nellery,
nice.
see you later, and that's going to be this push finished already. The rest of Legacy starting to build up some ultimate charge. Blank has tongue available already, and Roro will have barrage available shortly as well. Unfortunately, that was close. Unfortunately, it's been difficult for Roro to get in over the top of them. They've been holding in some pretty good positions.
Yeah, definitely been putting a lot of pressure onto Roro. I was kind of surprised to see Nellery go down like that. Noz must not have had much defense matrix available to him, otherwise he probably could have kept him alive. But now Legacy coming up on more ultimates. The sound barrier, the visor, impactful in the last.
Rocket Barrage comes out and it's sleep easy. Like throwing a can of Mortine into the air and having success. Tongue's down as well. Legacy looking very strong here on defense. Just 90 seconds on the clock. Kura and Noz both going to be killed as the last players on their team. So
very nicely executed fight out again from Legacy. It only cost Valkyrie and Riptire this time. That is up to 62%. So again, the nano visor, oh, sorry, not the nano visor, just the technical visor this time for Legacy will be something that Blank have to think about here. Noz with the self-destruct, but nothing to combo with. So how much value you can get out of that
maybe
does
you
remain
get
to be
the
seen.
supercharger or something. We'll have to wait and see.
I mean, if you put that self-destruct in the back corner there, that really is going to force Legacy out of their position. And with this kind of bunker composition, that's really what Legacy is hoping to avoid at this point.
Well, the self-destruct is available. And here, Kura going to use the ultimate straight away. Supercharger comes out, but it's Blank who are getting the picks. Big self-destruct needed. Comes through from Noz, actually finds 2 kills. And Mini's gone down. So they will capture the point. Addy pops his ultimate. I don't know if that means that we're going to see a change coming out from him or not.
I think so. Could even go on to Widow on this point, but looks like it's going to be the Zarya. Everyone from Blank wants to swap off as well.
Lining up for the changing rooms,
so
change costumes.
Go back to Goats on both sides. Mountain Goats with the Winston.
That wasn't that bad from Legacy.
No, it wasn't bad from Legacy, definitely. It was a good hold, but for Blank, it was very nice in that final fight. They got the opening pick and they capitalized on before the race could come across.
We're looking for this first fight, and it's going to be Blank onto Sleep Easy in the second phase. That is, it's going to be a reasonable pick. No Brigitte makes life tough for sure. Cinderella's down as well, so this fight will go the way of Blank.
Yeah, Tongue forced to use the trans there. I don't know that Blank really wanted to invest it, but that's okay. They will win the fight. That's kind of exactly what Legacy was kind of hoping for, though. Like, you don't take that fight at that forward point to necessarily win it. Of course, winning it is the main objective in the end, but if you can force a couple of ultimates out, make it more difficult for Blank to actually push into point B, as long as you can stall it before point B is capped up, that's really the objective here for Legacy. It's not necessarily to win it and hold it then and there.
Well, a couple of fights remaining here in the second phase. Unless Blank can really push this through quickly. Self-destruct going to come through from Blank. Everyone's going to run inside, but Cinderella, the first one down, caught out there by Roro. And again, that could start an avalanche of difficulty here for Legacy. Blank going to steamroll across. Payload should start moving once again. Mini D mech, Sleep Easy down. Special Kid, fortunately, will not be using trans in this scenario, and it's going to be probably one last fight.
It's not a good place to lose your fight. It's definitely not a good place, because this will allow Blank Esports to get into forward position. It might be difficult even for Legacy to actually get out of the chokes. At least they do have Transcendence, which will make life easier. Cinderella coming up on the Primal Rage as well will be able to get the touch and will be able to hold on to the payload for quite a while.
Just in the nick of time, the Graviton Surger, half-second too late to pick up Cinderella, but very much on time to clean up the rest of the team here.
Yeah, Cinderella not investing anything there, nor was Special Kid. They knew the fight was lost as soon as that grab went out. Special Kid wasn't really in a good position to be able to get the trans across because he was stuck behind the wall. And so Legacy will have to defend point C. I think now is where things start to get a little worrisome for Legacy. They've shown a good tendency to be able to hold things on the defensive side, but their attacks have been worrisome. So the further this payload goes now, I'm starting to lean a little bit more towards Blank.
Yeah, they're definitely looking strong here on Hollywood.
Even if they can't necessarily cap it out.
The further they go, the longer this goes, the better for me it's actually been looking here. Self-destruct comes through on defense, not going to find anyone, just slows it down by half a second. Waiting for Blank to find their picks. They have a self-destruct available of their own, and Addy now has Graviton Surge that cannot be used in conjunction with Midi's ultimate. A self-destruct on attack, pushes through, everyone gets back out, and a Sleep Easy who's found out. Nellery finds one as well. I don't think Special Kid is going to be able to do too much. No, down to Tongue. The payload will continue to move here. You can see they're going to have to stagger their way back onto this payload. One last fight, really. One last good fight, I think, for Legacy remains.
Yeah, Blank will really push hard now in this little meanwhile when it's Legacy starting to respawn. Blank have built a lot of ultimates in that fight. Legacy getting there as well, but they're just a little bit behind, so Blank have an opportunity to shut things down. If they can kill Thunder Kitty before he gets the sound barrier across. It's unlikely, of course, but that would be the ideal world.
Looking to maybe find a couple as well. They're going to pop it right off the payload as well. That is definitely how Legacy does not want to fight. They're going to get forts back. Now will stand on the VIP car. And Nellery actually the first one to go down, so that's a decent pick coming out from Legacy. Going to allow them to find just a little bit more room, but the payload very, very close to shield here for Cinderella is low as well. Looking for the Earth Shatter, not going to find it, is the defensive team, but Nellery's going to come through with his. There you go, the last nail.
What a great response from Blank. They see Legacy just overextending a little bit there, and Cinderella with his shield low, unable to block the shatter, gets absolutely decimated. That is such a quick, fast response from Blank Esports. They have to be commended for that. There was definitely another minute or two of a hold in there for Legacy, but unfortunately they get caught out, and well, it's 23 seconds. There definitely would have been a potential for them to hold that through to overtime if they would have had another proper fight, but Legacy, I mean, gave the opening over to Blank Esports, and Blank immediately able to capitalize. So I think that's a little bit scary for Legacy, to be honest. Yeah,
23 seconds. Not that much time, but
it doesn't sound like a lot.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but I don't think... I think Legacy will struggle to complete Hollywood here on the attacking side.
Agree, yeah, I agree. We've seen them struggle to complete Hollywood in their last couple of matches. So, a little bit worrisome for me here for Legacy. They need to make sure that they do it with time remaining as well.
Ready for battle.
Again, though, they have been playing okay in parts. It's just unfortunately feels like Blank's just that little bit better again, right? They just find the advantages. When they do get the advantage, they make the most of it. So, point A, Legacy went okay. Blank was better. But when it came to the second phase, probably the second phase maybe was what let Legacy down in the scenario.
Yeah, I mean, the second and third phase, definitely. Second phase, the grab was great from Roro to stop the contest onto the point B. I think there was definitely more in that for Legacy had they not been caught in the grab, but Blank read the situation well. Roro threw out a good grab, and they weren't really given the opportunity to contest. But you saw like how close Cinderella was to Primal Rage. You saw Special Kid had the Transcendence. There definitely was a fight available to Legacy there, but it was shut down before it began.
Yeah.
Definitely been nicely played from Blank so far today.
Roro back on Farah as well. Has been pretty good on Farah so far. And not that much that Legacy has to deal with this either, which is a critical point here to see whether they choose to swap over or not, now that they know what Blank is playing with. Looks to me like maybe Legacy just starting to lose a little bit of HP, and the first pick is going to go across to them along with the second to Roro. He's starting to build up Rocket Barrage once again. It's going to be Mini, tasked trying to bring the Farah down, but certainly tough at this time, and in that place, Blank going to win the first fight.
Yeah, you need to find a way to deal with this Farah as Legacy,
Addy,
and it's going to be Addy onto the hit scan once again. We need very, very late stagger, unfortunately, for Legacy. That'll buy quite a bit of time for Blank. Right now, things starting off perfectly for Blank as they do build a lot of ultimate charge in that last fight. Legacy once again forced to make the adaptation, which is going to cost them a little bit of ult charge of their own.
Let's give this one another burl. Going to push back round, see how the die works out. It's EMP coming straight up from Tails, which will stop once again this fight in its tracks. Mini, the only one doing any sort of damage onto Nellery. That's going to be inconsequential, of course. And 2:30 on the clock. We've used a little bit of time. Still, fair bit remaining. Legacy going to need to probably push through another 1 or 2 times without success before they find themselves in a position where they can make something of this.
Yeah, it's going to be quite tough from now on, I think, for Legacy. You see what Blank have managed to charge up here. Roro's searching for the Rocket Barrage, trying to be as sneaky as possible. Legacy should be well aware of it, being a possibility at least. Not quite. Roro actually gets 3 for the D-Mech as well.
Oh, gosh.
Goodness me. Mini not quite quick enough to get the umbrella up.
The first fight, it was Tails and the EMP. The second fight, it was Roro and the Rocket Barrage. That really doesn't allow Legacy that much opportunity to build up their own ultimate charge. They found 2.
Yeah, just such a cheap fight for Blank as well. Addy's been really struggling to get too much work done on the McCree. Tails doesn't actually have the EMP available. I think this is the best chance right now for Blank. If they lose this fight, EMP will be up, Barrage will be up.
Special Kid straight away going to go down there. Tails in the back line as well, causing a bit of strife here. Already up to 96%. I was about to say 90. That's how quick it's done. Gets back out, has the EMP available, and now knows that he can just lurk there deal with anyone who gets onto the point. 1 minute remains. It's looking particularly unlikely here, like Legacy will be able to make their way onto the point.
Another rocket barrage nearly charged for Roro, and there it is. He's going to jump straight on the Transcendence.
Oh, nice work. Addy stays alive, but Noz comes through. Perfectly timed self-destruct. Finds two. Sleep Easy's down as well. Tails has used that EMP in the back line.
Yeah, Legacy, they put everything into that one as well. Trance, self-destruct, Primal Rage, Rally. There's almost nothing left to work with for Legacy here. We head into what will be their final fight, and they've always had problems attacking. And this, once again, is another example of that.
Waiting for a good Deadeye. It finds Kura, but that won't be enough. 15 seconds. They're looking for a capture. They won't be successful. Blank should be able to hold on here and should be able to really... That 2 convincing map wins here now for Blank across Legacy. So Legacy probably not playing for the victory at this point, Jordan, but I'd love to see how this plays out in terms of map wins. One last chance to get into the point. You can see they have to stagger on. And that's obviously not how they'd love to be playing that.
Yeah, Roro's super solid stuff on the Farah. He'll be, I'm sure, getting a shout out potentially for the play of the game with that 4K rocket barrage.
It's a 3-0, Jordan. It's not a 3-2 or a 3-1 or a close. It's a 3-0, and that's pretty. Doesn't get more convincing than that, really, does it?
No, not really at all. Again, I have to keep going back to the fact that Legacy just don't seem to be able to get it together on the attack. I think that's something that they need to look at because their defenses are not bad. I mean, in this case, they probably could have held on to overtime at the very least, so that may be a little bit disappointing for Legacy, but it really is irrelevant. Like, even if they full held first, they still didn't even get a tick on first, right? So this would have bare minimum been like a draw for Legacy, which is unfortunately, you know, you can do well on your defense or decently enough on your defense. If you can't get it together on the attack, then it's just such a big problem.
Just a lot of good individual plays as well coming out from Blank, which, to be fair, is precisely what we expected to see today, but they have not disappointed at all. Roro in particular on Farah, even once they swap across, pick up the McCree, like it's still tough, right? It was one thing when Roro was on attack and was struggling to get into the right position, but on defense, it's very tough to push that Farah out of position.
I thought when I saw Mini coming through the gate first there that Roro's rocket barrage was going to be shut down pretty early because, you know, right click comes up, easy done. But it seems like she got caught off guard a little bit. Did get the defense matrix up in like just in a second, but it was too late. You know, you'd already lost 3 players, and then the mech takes the damage. It's all over there from Legacy. Nicely done from Roro in the end, but nicely done across the board from Blank Esports. It never looked like they were in a precarious position holding on to point A. For Legacy, on their defense on point A, there was a couple of times where they lost a player pretty early on in the point, and you thought, okay, Blank could actually capitalize on this and finish things off, but there was never any sense of that for Blank. They didn't really ever lose the player initially. They were always the ones initiating the fight, starting the fights on their own terms, and Legacy were never really even able to start a fight. They'd already lost the fight before they had a chance to throw their ultimates, throw out their abilities or anything like that. So just too much space being given over to Blank, and Legacy weren't able to provide enough for themselves.
So far, so good for Blank up against Legacy. 2-0 is the score. Very convincing as well have the map wins been. It's halftime. We're going to take a break. We'll see you right after this.